Men are losing their mind over a recent video that I made explaining how you leaving a good guy doesn't make you a bad person. Your spouse doesn't have to be abusive in order for your feelings of wanting to leave to be valid. There are dozens of reasons why marriages fall apart, and a lot of them have nothing to do with somebody being a bad person. Here are some examples. Financial problems, growing apart, communication issues, addiction, too much arguing, lack of emotional or physical intimacy, one spouse just isn't carrying their weight in the marriage, maybe you married too young or for the wrong reasons, opposing values or lack of shared interests, or maybe you just live like platonic roommates. Those are all very common reasons for divorce, and it doesn't make you or your spouse a bad person.
Boy, I don't know how the white men do it. I honestly don't. I'm not trying to be a racist here. I swear to God, I'm not. But I'm telling you, I noticed something with white women. They are something else. They're the ones who started this whole. They start all of these little movements. They want to be as much of a victim as everybody else. They start stuff. They light a match. They throw the Molotov cocktail and walk away, and then walk back and say, "Oh my God, what happened here?" It's what they do, and unfortunately, because people view whiteness as being at the top of the tier, all of the other races follow suit. Black women have to follow what the white women do, and then they 2x it. They say if the white woman gonna take it to that level, I'm gonna see you and I'm gonna raise you. So she has to go above and beyond what the white woman has done. And these Asian women doing the same thing. So are the Indian women. Not really the Latino women. You can't really say that too much. But when you're looking here in America or in the western part of the world, these white women just start trouble everywhere they go. They're the most deprived group you'll ever see in your life. I don't know how that's possible when I'm looking back at history and they have benefited from any and everything. But yet they're such victims. Then this woman just ran down a whole list of things. I literally had to write this stuff down. Be like, oh my God, like let's hear what she's talking about. Reasons for divorcing your spouse. Particularly, this is before I even get into this. Keep this in mind when we're talking about reasons for divorce. Keep in mind the vows that people typically take. And this may some people, newer people, maybe y'all are getting more conventional when you go into a marriage. But the vows that people normally take, and most of these people, especially in America, claim to be Christians, you're taking a vow for rich or for poor, for sickness and health, to death do you part, and all that other good stuff. And she just ran down a list. She said financial problems. So you just leave a person just because the money's bad. Well, what if the money's flowing in great? And what if you're the financial problem? So it's right for him to just leave you and also tell you, since you're the one who's financially irresponsible, that you get nothing. So, but financial problems is nothing to walk away from a marriage from. You took a vow for richer or for poor. That's why we vet our partners. And even when you vet your partner, sometimes financial things come up. Life comes up. If a person gets, I'm going to run down this list and I'm going to say one thing that she left off of the list. So I'm going to go through that. So she says financial problems. I already covered that. Growing apart. What does that even mean? See, all of the stuff that she lists on this list are catch-alls. And this woman is supposedly a marriage and or dating coach. And this is the advice that women are getting from people like her. Growing apart is a reason to walk away from a marriage. Listen, you're with somebody for 20 years. It's sometimes you're going to grow apart, you're going to come together, grow apart, come together. I keep telling y'all about what Michelle Obama said. And Michelle Obama, I wish to goodness that Michelle Obama would come online and just talk some sense into to people, because people seem to listen to her, but they must not have been paying attention to what she said. She said there are times when I can't stand, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she was like, I can't stand Barack. There are periods of time when, we just not clicking. And I'm assuming she was like, that can last for days, weeks, I don't know, even months. But that's nothing for you to just say, okay, I'm walking away from my marriage and I'd rather start all over with a new fool that I just met to see if I can build with this new idiot. Now I got to train this new guy on how to communicate, how to keep his finances, and also share like interests so that we don't grow apart. So those are just the two, the financial and growing apart. Then she says communication issues. I can tell you this, a lot of marriages have communication issues, and a lot of couples have communication issues, typically because the man, it's not that he doesn't really communicate, it's just that he knows that when he does communicate and if it goes against what she wants to hear, that it's not going to win well for him. I don't think I've ever really won an argument with any female that I've been in. And I know that I was right because females are going to either, like I told y'all, they're either going to dismiss your premise, they're either going to not accept your premise, or they're going to deflect. And they're going to do several of those things. So you're not even going to have a leg to stand on once somebody doesn't acknowledge your premise. She says addiction. Addiction's nothing to walk away from. There are many forms of addiction. There's sugar addiction, there's food addiction, there's drug addiction, there's, adult content addiction. There are all kind of addictions. You work through it. And thankfully, as an example, and it's a good thing that Kirk Franklin, a long time ago, people don't remember this, if you're probably not familiar with this, but look it up. I remember Kirk Franklin admitting that he had an addiction to adult content. And I do believe I'm right. So I don't want to probably put this out there on Kirk, but look it up. I think it was Kirk Franklin, and he said he had an addiction, and there were certain things that he was looking at that he wanted to get his wife to do, and I think all this other stuff. And but luckily he came out of that, and she helped him work through it. She didn't just leave her husband because he had an issue. Issues come up with people. People are flawed beings. And the thing is that we get with each other to work through these issues. Her next one, too much arguing. So once again, for people who love to claim, and this is what I love, as many women, women love to jump on this new bandwagon because having a therapist is the new it thing to do. Everyone wants to have a therapist and everyone wants to come healed. Well, shouldn't you be healing as a couple, as individuals? And this applies in therapy. There's many type of therapists. There are financial counselors. You can get a financial coach, a financial counselor. Trust me, they're all over the place. If you're growing apart, there are therapists that can help you out for your couples that are having too much arguing, that are having communication issues, and that are growing apart. There are the therapies, those cover those three. So we've already covered the ones that I've covered. And if you have an addiction, if your spouse goes to therapy, you can go there too and support that and support your partner. But once again, it's too much work. You want a soft life. You want a perfect person that's not going to have any flaws, but will also accept your flaws. Because I'm pretty sure this woman and probably other women that are listening to her have flaws too, because we all have flaws. Lack of emotional, physical intimacy. Once again, this can be worked on. There are intimacy coaches out there. Go get one. Heck, get an intimacy coach. They're out there. One spouse not carrying their weight in a marriage. Once again, this is very subjective. I literally heard an Asian woman say, and this was a westernized Asian woman, she left her marriage because she realized that she was putting in 7 more hours per week than her man because she had to do things like take care of the kid and do all this other stuff. And it was just kind of like, really? So now we pocket watching, we clock watching on who's doing what and doing this and doing that? And is she honest? Is she being totally honest about the time differences? Because sometimes we see what we want to see. We see that, okay, I'm doing a particular amount of stuff and my spouse isn't. You don't know what your spouse probably has a different perspective on it. Trust me. And I'm not trying to say that, because nothing is going to be 50-50 all the time. And that's the same thing Michelle Obama was saying. Next point. Married too young or for the wrong reasons. This is, once again, we're getting into insanity here. If a couple chose to get married, we can't just start saying, okay, oh, I got married too young. So what now? You gonna say I got married too old, and I shouldn't have got married, or we're just thinking of reasons to back out of a contractual agreement that we made, a pact we made with one another. For as you being my life partner, I'm being your life partner. We're backing out of one of the most sacred agreements that you can ever enter into, just because you feel as though, oh, I'm married too young. Huh. Oh, we argued too. Or we're growing apart. This is crazy. And then the last point she mentioned was opposing values or lack of shared interests. Um, there's a guy, I think is his name, James Carville. James Carville, he's a Democrat. And then his wife, I forget his wife's name. She's a Republican. He's a Democratic strategist, strategic analyst, or whatever. And his wife is a Republican strategic analyst. Two opposing issues. You don't see them throwing in the towel because they have opposing views. Because I seriously see a lot of women online. They'll say, if you're a Trump supporter, don't talk to me. And that's come from white women and black women. And it's just kind of like, once again, I'm not trying to say that those relationships will definitely work out, but sometimes you don't know to what extent that person is a supporter or not a supporter. It's just kind of like people are just finding reasons to not be with someone else. Or you have a lack of shared interest. That was her other thing. Okay, well, I know a lot of people, and this is the point that I used to get mad at. It's amazing at how, men will be more receptive. And this is, maybe let me just not say men. Let me not say that, because let me just bring it up to my personal self. But I'm going to bring it to my personal self with my friends. What I've noticed is with me and all my guy friends, when we were in relationships, and they're still in their relationships, when I was in my relationship, we give interest to women's interests. If she's watching some toxic shows on television and watching these, all of these different type of shows and movies, we'll give that a chance. Okay, I'll watch your stuff. But then as soon as my sci-fi stuff comes on, nah, I don't want to see that. I'm out of here. Well, why not give my stuff a chance? I gave your stuff a chance. I sat on the couch with you. I watched TV with you as a time to use this as bonding and for us to have additional stuff to talk about. And then as soon as my stuff comes on, you're not interested, you walk away and you leave. So lack of and having opposing values or lack of shared interest, once again, these are all not good reasons to leave a marriage. And if you didn't have, you should have figured this out before you got married. And even though things changed, then sometimes it's good. Okay, you have your life, I have mine, or you have your interests, I have my interests, but you still have some commonalities. There. Now, the one thing that she did leave off the list, because if you're going to leave somebody over all of this stuff, if you're going to leave somebody over financial problems, growing apart, communication issues, addiction, too much arguing, lack of emotional, physical intimacy, one spouse not carrying their weight, married too young or for the wrong reasons, and opposing values or lack of shared interest, are you also leaving if the person has to have a body part amputated? Are you leaving if this person becomes mentally or physically impaired in some type of way? Like, what's going to make you stay? Because if you're walking away on stuff like this, this is probably the reason why men do not want to commit to a relationship. I don't think y'all understand how hard it is to go through the termination or dissolution of a marriage. It is a hard thing to do. And then on top of that, especially if you have someone who wants to walk away, that wants to initiate walking away from you, and then wants to say, oh, and by the way, I want you to give me half of your assets, and I want half of your retirement plan, and I want to get access or have alimony and or child support. If you're going to walk away on these superficial issues, then you should be taking care of yourself. And this is just, my opinion, but these are reasons like this that prevent people, men and women, because a man could walk away from or initiate a divorce from this frivolous stuff too. But this is reason why men and women are hesitant to enter into long-term relationships, because people are just so quick to walk away. In the court systems, the government is allowing this stuff. They're allowing one day, like you can get divorces in one day, I think now. You can get divorces in a month. It used to be you had to wait a year. You had to be separated for a year, living apart for a year. You had to go through a bunch of hoops to have your marriage dissolved. Now they're just letting people walk away. So a lot of this too is the court system's fault, because the court isn't making people pay for terminating relationships. The court does all, if you think about it, the government does a bunch of social engineering. People don't want to see it, but the government does so much social engineering in one sense, but then they don't do social engineering in the second sense. So let me give you an example. When you do your taxes, the government will incentivize you to say, if you have kids or you have this, that, and the third, you get a tax break. Okay, and also too, if you make this amount of money, or if you have this amount of income coming in, this is what we'll give you. If you own a home, you can be able to qualify to do, not the standard deduction, but you can itemize your deductions, and that way you can get a bigger write-off. If you donate to charities, you can also write that off. If you buy an electric vehicle, that's also another write-off. All of this is social engineering to help people to plan for that. If you're a responsible person, or if you're a person that's financially on your game, you're planning this throughout the year. You don't just wait until January, February, and March to start doing your taxes. You do your taxes all throughout the year, and you're plotting and scheming, and you're coming up with your list, and you're looking at this, and you're basically using the government social engineering approach to say, this is how I can get tax breaks. Well, where is it on the government side that says, okay, well, you chose to enter into an agreement, a relationship built off of a foundation of, under God, because, regardless of what people want to say, the United States is a Christian nation. It's not official. And I know that y'all's forefathers, not mine, claim that there was a separation of church and state, but they're not pulling out the Quran. They're not pulling out the Torah. They're talking about the Bible, mostly New Testament. But they're not saying, okay, well, if you want to terminate this relationship, because, and this goes for you Republicans, because you Republicans are so big on protecting, pro-life, but you need to come up with some pro-marriage to say, if you want to back out of this marriage, you entered into this relationship with God and your spouse. And this acknowledgement of God, this relationship built off of God, and then you want to just leave it for what? For some frivolous out clause such as these reasons here. Okay, well, this is how you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay the state XYZ dollars, and the person who initiates, you walk away with nothing, and you need to start making the people pay for their actions. Because we've made it too easy for people to walk away and then enter into new situationships. Look at what Kevin Costner's going through right now. 69 years of age. He married a woman, 19 years younger than him. They had 3 kids together. She walks away, and she's already being pictured holding hands with a family friend, with some dude that he already knows, and she's already booed up. This is ridiculous. And it really needs to come to a halt. And the government really needs to intervene on this. And listening to women like this is just utterly ridiculous. And I'm sorry to say it, women, but I have to. This woman should not be giving anyone advice. So if you have comments, please drop them in the comment section. If you disagree, definitely drop them in the comment section. But even if you agree, drop the comments in the comment section. It helps, get the word out. It helps with the algorithm and all that other good jazz. Also hit the like and subscribe button. Once again, this is the Political Brown Kid. I'm out of here.